They're talking about the NFL from a different perspective. Game recaps, stats, big plays, predictions, and much more. You're listening to the B&E Podcast with Ed Donaldson and Brandon Simpson.
And we're back. Welcome to another episode of the Breaking and Entering Podcast with Brandon and I. Brandon, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good, man. Ready for Monday night?
Yes, sir. Before we get started, you told me about this earlier. We kind of texted about it. I think you know what I'm talking about. Your boy, Mark Andrews. Apparently, I saw the video. They said like the guy Bobby Johnson. I think that's his name. Sorry if I got that wrong.
I believe so.
Bobby.
I think so.
The guy
Sounds
Bobby.
right.
They were, Bobby was trying to defend the pass, and Lamar threw Mark Andrews a ball, and whatever happened, I guess Bobby hit him. I didn't see him. I didn't see Bobby hit him. I saw him trying to make a play on a ball or whatever. But apparently that rubbed Mark Andrews the wrong way. So he kind of picked him up and body slammed him. It doesn't look as bad as I said if you watch the video, everyone. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the next day, they talking about Bobby got a rotator cuff injury. I'm like, hold on. So Commanders, please, if Mark Andrews plays, no offense, Brandon, forearm shiver real quick. One of those real quick, and we go about our day. But yeah, I can't wait for that Monday night, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he better play one or two snaps.
Yeah.
Because if that was me, oh hell no.
I'm guessing he won't be out there at this rate.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
idea.
Harbaugh and him and LJ and whoever makes the decisions over there are probably thinking that that we might not want to play him, and you probably don't want to play anybody else that's valuable at this point. Because that wasn't a good look, and it wasn't like Mark Andrews. I know I didn't say this to you via text, but Mark Andrews is not that type of guy. Obviously, I don't know what else happened. You hear the reports and everything like that.
Yeah.
But Mark Andrews is one of those guys. You get one of those fiery linebackers, corner safeties, whoever on defense, and they're jabbing in his ear or face, and he's most time just walking away.
Yeah.
We've had other guys in years past that have been, face to face with those guys or start fighting or whatever. But it wasn't like him. And I was surprised when I heard his name because in my Picks League group text, they're the one that first told me because I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And I sent the eye emoji back. I'm like, what's going on? So when I finally got around to it, I was, running around doing stuff, and I looked at it, I was like, damn, that's not like Mark Andrews. So yeah, if I was him, I wouldn't play LJ. I wouldn't play J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if he's going to play anyway because he just came off the PUP list. It's a bunch of guys I wouldn't play at this rate. Get out of D.C. safe, please.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, let's get into this opening drive. Bengals running back Joe Mixon, has been found not guilty of aggravated menacing. The Ravens have signed veteran DN Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year deal. The Lions have waived wide receiver Denzel Mims a month after trading for him. Commanders named Sam Howell the number one quarterback. I think that was a given. It was more like his job to lose, if anything. And Anheuser-Busch is back as a sponsor of the Commanders, joining Verizon, who also agreed to a 2-year deal earlier this week. Hopefully, just more good things keep happening for the Washington franchise, but we'll see. We'll definitely see.
What a difference one guy leaving the organization makes. You got 2 massive deals and sponsors, one returning. I'm pretty sure Verizon was probably with y'all beforehand as well because they sponsor a lot of teams. But, to think that Dan Snyder left, less than a month ago, if that, maybe a little bit more. And now, y'all starting to get sponsors back. That's just a good deal for y'all in the marketing side of things.
Cloud's been lifted.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go to the North. NFC North, Minnesota last year, of course, they finished 13-4. A lot of close games for them. Detroit came in second place out of nowhere, followed by Green Bay and Chicago there in that division. The Vikings were the only team, of course, to make the playoffs, and but they were upset by the Giants in the wild card. I think a lot of people predicted that, and of course, it did happen. Here's how I got this division going out. I got it. I know it's going to seem a little crazy, but I got the Packers regaining this division back. The Lions, I know, the Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. Again, I know it seems a little crazy after they just lost Aaron Rodgers. We have more questions with Jordan Love than hope at this point. Honestly, I mean, we all seen I think 2 games that he started in weren't very good at all, of course. But we shouldn't forget how they finished last season. They came back like it was very bad for them at first, and then they started winning games, and they went on a big time win streak. I want to say weeks like 12 to 13 on to week 17. And then of course they lost to Detroit and got booted out of the playoffs. But that defense came together. It was less mistakes were made on offense down the stretch. They still have 2 premier running backs and AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, 2 second-year wideouts there. I believe they'll only get better. And you have first-round talent all over that defense. We all know how they always kept saying, "Oh, is this going to be the year that Green Bay drafts a wide receiver?" For the last 5, 8 years, give or take, and they've been most of the time taking defense. So I mean, they still have a lot of first-round talent again on that defense. And one of my favorite corners is Jaire Alexander. Alexander, he's top notch there. But they need to fix up some of the mental issues, in my opinion, on special teams. That's always been an Achilles heel for them. We've seen some of the dumbest mistakes with Green Bay over the years, muff punts and all that type of stuff. But I think Matt LaFleur will help get Jordan Love heading into the right direction. On to the Lions. A lot of people are picking them to win the division this year, but I mean, we all think the Lions are one of those teams. Can they handle success? Will Jared Goff be able to repeat his career year? Surprisingly, I heard a couple weeks ago that he actually led the NFL in touchdown to interception ratio last year. I knew he was good, but I didn't know it was like that good in those terms. Surprisingly, we all saw they let both their running backs go in free agency. Or one was traded, DeAndre Swift, to the Eagles, of course. But either way, they're both not with the team. I know they got younger there with Gibbs out of Alabama.
Yeah.
I like the defense, but they must get better. I mean, Detroit, 1 point last year. We talked about it several weeks last year. They scored 30 points a game, was leading the league in offense on scoring, and they gave up damn near just as much on defense. So when you do that, obviously we know it's more issues than it is success because, again, you're scoring 30, but you're giving up 30. It's just like Jameis Winston down in Tampa Bay a couple years ago. You got 30 touchdowns, but you got 30 interceptions. So, yeah, make it make sense. They cannot give up that many points per game and yardage as they did a year ago. Now to a pair of teams that I could see finishing in either spot, Vikings and the Bears. All right. We can never trust Kirk Cousins, y'all. But honestly, he gets a lot of hate and he gets a lot of, shade thrown in his direction. But when you look at his stat line, he's pretty damn good. But they lost 2 key guys.
Empty stats, but yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. They lost 2 key guys. I feel like they'll come back to haunt them a bit. Patrick Peterson and Dalvin Cook. I mean, we all know Madison is there, and it seems like it's almost like a situation with the Cowboys. Just, we know that Madison and Pollard were great backups. Of course, Dalvin Cook was still, producing, but he was banged up a lot. But
Right.
Dalvin Cook is one of the league's best. You can't take that away from him. So how will they fill that void in a sense? Will Madison be able to produce as the number 1 guy? And then for the Bears, their owner, Aaron Rodgers, he's left town, but I'm still not sold on them, okay? Matt Eberflus, I believe I'm saying his name right. I believe he could be on the hot seat this year. I like the skill position players they add around Justin Fields, especially Khalil Herbert. He was there last year, obviously. But will that offensive line hold up? That was a big problem for them last year. Defensively, they're pretty solid, in my opinion, especially with Yannick Ngakoue. They just added during the offseason Tremaine Edmonds as well in the linebacker position. I just don't feel like they have enough to take the division. So once again, I'm going to go Green Bay coming back to claim the North after a couple years of owning it. The Lions, the Vikings, and the Bears. How do you see this going out?
I got it a little bit differently. I have Minnesota winning the division. Brian Flores is the new defensive coordinator. Came over from the Steelers. That defense, as you mentioned.
I missed that.
That defense, I think we talked about the the playoffs. We both predicted the Giants would win, and that's exactly what they did. I know the offense, Justin Jefferson, he didn't really have his greatest day, but I think that defense was a weak link for Minnesota. Hopefully, I'm hoping Brian Flores can come over there and kind of stand them up, make them a little bit better. They drafted Jordan Addison, the wide receiver out of USC,
Yeah.
in this year's draft in the first round. So he'll probably be the number 2 coming in because Adam Thielen left. He's with the Panthers now. So they got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. They picked up TJ Hockenson late last year through a trade or something. So
huge
they still
addition
got
for
some.
them.
Yeah, they still got some talent on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see how Alexander Madison is going to look and if he can fill Dalvin Cook's shoes. But I think I just like Kirk because they got 13 wins last year with Kevin O'Connell. I don't know, some of those games might have been a little fluky, but 13 wins, I think
A lot of close
they won't.
wins.
Yeah, I don't think they'll, downgrade too much. 10 wins maybe at the least, I'm thinking. But I got Minnesota. Then with Minnesota, I think the Lions. It's a toss up for me between the Lions and the Bears, actually. I'm going to start with the Lions. You mentioned DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams gone. You talked about how they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, 12th overall. They also picked up Jack Campbell as a linebacker, so he might help out with that defense. Of course, they had Aiden Hutchinson last year. He played against us. It looked like, the best fucking thing smoking. We couldn't stop him to save. I think he had like 3 sacks in the first possession, to be honest with you. It was crazy. And they also brought in David Montgomery from the Bears. So, the addition of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, maybe they'll have another 1-2 punch like they did last year with DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. I don't know if either of those guys will have that impact Jamal Williams did, because I think he had I'm pretty sure he led the league in rushing touchdowns. They would get to the goal line, they hand him the ball, and he would do his thing. So I think they're going to miss, like you said, I think they're going to miss those two. But I like the Lions a little bit. Only thing I'm concerned about with the Lions is Jameson Williams, that wide receiver. He got suspended the first 6 games for gambling, which is starting to be a huge issue. We might have to talk about that a little bit more. A lot of these teams, players are getting hit with gambling suspensions. So they got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we mentioned in the opening drive how they waived Denzel Mims. So who's going to be the other wide receiver that's Jared Goff's going to throw to? They picked up a tight end in the second round. I want to say his name's Laporta, if I'm not mistaken. Sam Laporta, I think his name is. So I like the Lions. Now to the Bears. Let's see. They picked up your boy Yannick Ngakoue.
Yep.
And they drafted a tackle in the first round, the 10th overall pick, Darnell Wright. Because you mentioned their O-line. I think you said their O-line's been bad. I know, last year they were having trouble. Justin Fields was running a lot for his life last year. DJ Moore also joined the team. Like you said, they got some offensive weapons now. So I think Justin Fields is going to take another step. He's proven to be an incredible dual threat. I think he's already up there with the Lamar Jacksons as far as his scrambling ability. Because I seen there were some plays he just blew me away with last year. He get in the open field and he not a lot of people were catching him. And he's a big dude too. Like he's stocky. I remember we talked about it. Was it against the Lions? He went he put his shoulder in the end zone, met up with somebody, knocked the dude out. I think it's with the Lions. But yeah, man, I like the Bears a little bit more. I think they're gonna surprise some people. Now the Packers. I'm still not sold on Jordan Love, everyone. I'm sorry. I'm just not. He's gonna have to I don't think he's bad. When he played against the Chiefs last year, he didn't really show me much. It was a close game for the most part, but it wasn't like he was keeping them in the game. But I think it was more the defense and more of the Chiefs not playing as well, in my opinion. But hey, who knows? You talk about those 2 wideouts, Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. I know he was playing really well with Aaron Rodgers. So we can see. We'll see if Jordan Love is able to have that same impact with Christian Watson and crew. They also picked up a tight end. I want to say his name is Mike Musgrave. I forgot his name. I think it's Musgrave, but yeah. So I got Minnesota Vikings. And then it's a tie between the Lions and the Bears right now, then Packers. But
Okay.
yeah, I think the Vikings will come out on top again. Now, if they get to the playoffs, we'll see. But I think Brian Flores is going to have a good impact on that defense. But we'll definitely keep an eye out on them. Now, I want to get to the NFC East, which I think is going to be one of the top divisions in football. Not just NFC. I'm talking about NFC and AFC. Let me start with the freaking Giants. They drafted cornerback Deontay Banks in the first round. They re-signed Saquon Barkley to a one-year deal, and they picked up Darren Waller and Cole Beasley. Darren Waller, please do not kill us when you play us twice a year, please, man. Like, cause I didn't even know he was from they said he's born in Landover, Maryland. I didn't know
Oh, I had
that.
no idea.
Yeah, I know he played with Baltimore for a while, but I
Yeah.
didn't know he was born in Landover, Maryland. I was looking him up earlier today. So
Hmm.
they also drafted this guy named Jalen Wyatt or Hyatt. I know his
Yeah.
first name Jalen. He was a wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
They call him a speedster.
Yeah, they said he's been playing good in the preseason.
Yeah, so I think I always thought their wide receiver room was a little thin. Sterling Shepard's been banged up a lot. First was like Achilles and the ACL, so I don't know if he'll be healthy coming back. But they re-signed Saquon Barkley, even though it's a one-year deal. We were talking about that running back situation last year. I think he's the MVP of the offense. So as long as they got him, they got a chance in the division. Next, I want to get to the Commanders, my team. We brought in Jacoby Brissett as a backup quarterback. We're trying to bolster up our O-line. We brought in Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs, offensive lineman, and we also brought over Nick Gates, another lineman from the Giants. So hopefully, those two, with the addition of my guy Sam Cosmi, we can bolster up the offensive line for pass protection because we were pretty good in the run. We played against the Eagles. I think it was the second game, and we beat them, and we were doing what we wanted to against them as far as running the ball. So we also drafted a cornerback, Emmanuel Forbes. Now they say he's a thin guy. I think he's 6 foot, but they say he's only like 166 pounds. So he might be a little small compared to other NFL players. But from what I've been hearing about him, he's been like a ball hawk. He's got really good technique, and he's been battling against you guys. I think they showed a highlight of him breaking up a play and he getting a little hyped about it. So we got B-Rob coming back off his first year. Where unfortunately, he got shot and had to deal with all that nonsense, and he came back strong. I think him, having a full off season, hopefully he won't run into any trouble down there in DC, and he'll just have a full off season of him doing his thing. We can get him in the regular season along with Antonio Gibbs and make some noise. So from those two teams, the Giants and the Commanders, might surprise the folks. I got Commanders second, and I got Giants. I got Giants fourth. So Commanders second, Giants fourth out of those two right now.
Okay.
Now the Cowboys. Zeke is gone. He's with the Patriots now. Dalton Schultz, their tight end, he's gone. They brought in Brandon Cooks. I think that's going to be a sneaky good addition for them. We'll see how Dak Prescott does. I mean, they got CeeDee Lamb. I think he's a pretty good wide receiver. But
Yeah.
Brandon Cooks, I think he'll help them out as well. They drafted a D tackle named from Michigan. That's up my I like that college. Mozzie Smith. I hope I said his name right. Put him with Demarcus Lawrence and
Lawrence, yeah.
Micah Parsons. Michael Parsons, that was another guy. The whole goddamn NFC East, they got a D lineman that did some crazy shit to us. Kayvon Thibodeau, I didn't mention his name with the Giants, but he had like 15 sacks against us also. So yeah. The Cowboys, I think they're gonna be third, honestly. I think we can do some things against them. I don't know. I like Tony Pollard. They had this new guy coming in, Deuce Vaughn. He's kind of been a rave of the town, but we'll see how he does. Because he's a little guy as far as height. He's only 5'5". So, but they've been saying, through training camp, he's been doing his thing. It looks like he might make the team, if not at least the practice squad. So we'll see. And then the Eagles. Unfortunately, I think the Eagles are going to be the division winners, just coming off another year where Jalen Hurts, he took a huge leap last year, in my opinion. It got him all the way to the Super Bowl. Miles Sanders is gone, however. I wonder what that impact is going to be like. Like you said, they traded for DeAndre Swift, and they also brought in Rashad Penny. So I think their running game is going to be okay. Jalen Hurts is a great runner as well. And they also had 2 first-round picks, and they spent it both on the goddamn D line. So I think
Georgia.
they saw what we did against them, how we were able to run the ball, and they're like, no, we can't have teams running the ball against us. One dude, I think he's from Alabama, Jalen Carter. He looks like a freaking freak, to be honest with you. Then another guy, Nolan Smith. So I'm kind of scared of the Eagles a little bit. Sam Howell, you're going to need to get that ball out quick. If you don't see nothing, get this scrambling, buddy. So right now I got the Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and the Giants. But as I say this, I truly think all the teams in this division will finish over 500. It'll be like one of those, you probably have 9-10 wins, and you might not make the playoffs. So I think this is going to be a drag it out fight for the NFC East. What do you think? What's your prediction for this division?
Yeah, the Cowboys and the Eagles were horrendous against the run last year. So that Mozzie Smith addition for Dallas and Jalen Carter and the other guy you mentioned was much needed for both of those teams.
Yeah, Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith, yeah, thank you. So very similar in my predictions. I think this division could honestly go any direction.
Okay.
At the end of the day, this is a division that rarely repeats. We all know that. That's one stat
true.
line for the NFCs we always think about, probably since like 2011, if I'm not mistaken. Is pretty much have not had a repeat champion, if I'm not mistaken. But the only difference I have is I flipped the Giants and the Commanders. But again, I think it can go either way. All these teams are talented. I think that each team will take at least have a loss, one more loss or more. I don't think they'll be as good as they were. The NFCs was really good last year. Like you mentioned, it's going to be another good year as well. But I don't think it'll be as good. But I could see either of these teams making the playoffs. But I'm going to go Eagles, Giants, Cowboys, Commanders. The only way I can see the Eagles not finishing in first place is that they lost both their coordinators. That could be very hard to overcome. But what a talented team. I mean, we talk about the San Francisco 49ers and the Eagles are probably the most talented on paper for sure. And honestly, you could say on the field, because they did it last year. I mean, they played each other in the NFC Championship. Of course, one of them went to the Super Bowl. Both teams were competitive the entire year. So, and then on top of that, you pretty much had the entire University of Georgia defense there over the past couple of years has gone to Philadelphia. These guys do it the old school way. They run the ball. I mentioned a lot last year. They averaged over 200 yards rushing pretty much the last 2 seasons, damn near every game. And they get after the quarterback. Again, they struggled against the run, but they get after the quarterback. I believe they had 70 sacks last season overall as a defense. I think they had 4 guys with double-digit sacks. Give me Philly at number 1. Giants, number 2. I still don't trust Daniel Jones, everyone. Hadn't trusted him since the Tampa Bay game in 2021.
Not in the Danny Dimes.
Yep. Monday Night Football down there in Tampa. He stunk it up. And I was like I tried my best to defend him because that's my dad's team and all. But I was like, damn. I mean, it's just it's just bad. But Daboll, he works his magic with his quarterbacks in year 2 in that system. You look back at Josh Allen up there in Buffalo. He had a horrendous rookie season. Well, not horrendous, but it wasn't that good. And he made a massive jump in the year 2. Of course, Daniel, he made in his first year under Daboll, he lowered the turnovers and the interceptions, the fumbles, and especially the fumbles. Man, he was giving up the ball left and right for several years. But again, you mentioned Saquon Barkley is back. You add Darren Waller to the mix. The defense was solid last year. You mentioned Kayvon Thibodeau. I mentioned him too. They just added that young corner, like you mentioned, Banks from Maryland. I really like the Giants on paper. Dallas, number 3. Dallas fans, they've been wanting Zeke gone for years, and they finally got it. Like I mentioned about Madison up there in Minnesota. I'm hearing good things about Vaughn, but will Pollard produce as a starter as he did as a backup? That's
Right.
that's $1 million question. I mean, you can say that he will because he had a couple good games last year where I think he ended up starting, but we're talking about 17, 18 games. Can you keep up? Schultz is gone at the tight end position, but going to the other side of the field, they did bring in Gilly on defense, Stephon Gilmore, to go alongside
Right.
Diggs on the other side. And then Micah Parsons, of course, he's a monster to go along with D-Law. But everyone's concerns with the Cowboys are with the quarterback, Dak Prescott. Don't forget, he led the league in interceptions last year, everyone. And remember, he missed about 3 to 4 games as well. So that's
That was
saying
my
something.
damn fantasy quarterback.
Yep. All right. To the Commanders.
Oh boy.
I really think y'all could surprise some people. Very talented offense outside of the quarterback position. No offense, Sam Howell. He's just, we got some questions with him. He only played 1 game last year, so we got to see a little bit more. 3 solid receivers and a pair of talented running backs. Plus, you add Logan Thomas. He's no scrub, in my opinion. On defense, the only concern that for me lately has been the linebacker position. Can that back 7 hold it down, for the those 4 first rounders up front that can wreak havoc any second of a game? And I do feel like Ron Rivera is on the hot seat, but I like the addition of Eric Bieniemy, and I think that'll help the offense as well. But I feel like Dallas, Washington, and New York, they can land anywhere 2, 3, and 4. Again, I just see each team taking a step back a little bit when it comes to win totals overall. So yeah, I got again Philly, New York, the G-men, Dallas, and Washington, but it could go honestly this division any direction.
Yeah, agreed. Before we get to the next portion, this episode is brought to you by Premium, the CBD and wellness company. Check out their full line of CBD-infused products, which make great stocking stuffers for the upcoming holiday season. Perfect for athletes, weekend warriors, soccer moms, and even armchair quarterbacks. They have CBD-infused honey, which is a personal favorite, as well as tinctures in mint and regular flavor. Most importantly, they are veteran and woman-owned, so come get some of this sweet temptation and taste the premium difference. Use code BNE for 15% off your order. Their website is www.premium.com. That's PREHEMIUM.com. Again, that's PREHEMIUM.com. Let's get back to our show.
Tampa Tom, he's gone, everyone. So who will win the NFC South this year? Each team will have a new starting quarterback, while it's pretty much a complete overhaul in Carolina. Ed, what are your thoughts on this division?
I'm going to start with the Falcons. I actually think no, let me hold that. I don't think they're the favorite. I think they're one of the I think they're one of the teams that can make some noise. They drafted was kind of an eye raiser to some people because of just how the running back situation is.
Yeah.
Now everybody acts like it's a super replaceable position, but they drafted Bijan Robinson out of Texas, I believe, 8th overall. He's coming into a pretty good running back room, if you ask me. They had Tyler Algier last year, who kind of broke onto the scene, and then Cordell Patterson. They moved him to running back. This mofo is doing the damn thing. I every time I see him in fantasy, I'm like, nah. And then he goes off before the year. So I don't know. Like you said, the quarterback position is gone. Mariota is gone. Brought in your guy Taylor Heineke. When my goddad was on the show, he called him a lucky charm, and I definitely agree with that. He's also he was born in Atlanta, Georgia himself. So maybe we'll see how that works. But I don't think unless Desmond Ridder gets injured, I doubt he'll see any football. Desmond Ridder is a guy. They signed a pair of Bengals defensive backs, Trey Flowers and Jesse Bates. They also brought in they traded for Jeff Okudah. He used to play for the Lions, I believe. And they signed Calais Campbell. And that goes along with my guy AJ Terrell. I think he's a pretty decent cornerback. So I think the Falcons, they're going to be a little bit improved. Hopefully Desmond Ridder can connect a little bit better with Kyle Pitts than Mariota did. He seemed to have a great job with Drake London in his first year. So I think they got some pieces on the offensive side. I think that defense will a little bit better. Still got some concerns on that D line. But we'll see how that goes. Falcons, I think they're going to finish second, honestly. Tampa Bay, like you said, Tom Brady is gone. They drafted a DT, a defensive tackle, excuse me, man, Kalijah Cansey. Hope I said your name right, buddy. In the first round. Unfortunately, Russell Gage tore his patellar tendon, their wide receiver, and he's going to be out for the season. But they still got Mike Evans and my boy Chris Godwin.
Yep.
The quarterback position, they got Baker Mayfield, and Kyle Trask is probably going to be his backup. And they say Kyle Trask, he's been struggling in the preseason and the training camp. So Baker Mayfield is probably going to be a quarterback. I got Mike Evans in one of these fantasy leagues I'm in. So I'm just hoping, Baker can get a rapport with him and he doesn't end up like Odell Beckham, just losing his damn mind, having his damn family curse out Baker Mayfield on social media because his ass playing so damn bad. But we'll see. Tampa Bay, they're going to be in a battle for last place. They're probably going to be in last place in the whole damn league, in my opinion. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't mean to disrespect y'all like that. But at least
I agree.
In the NFC South, y'all going to have some problems. New Orleans, they got a new quarterback as well, Derek Carr. I think he's going to do all right for him. I think New Orleans is the favorite in this division. I just think I just like their continuity with their team. They got their defense always seems to be solid, in my opinion. Tyrann Mathieu. They bought in Jonathan Abram as a safety. He's been banged up a lot. Who did he play with? He played with the
Raiders,
Jets.
right?
Yeah, he played the Raiders. I think, was it the Jets? He played with the Raiders, and then he had one other team. I can't remember the team he played for last year. I don't think it was the Raiders, but we'll see if he can play football right, because he's like a heat-seeking missile. This dude put his head down, just smack. So he can tackle, but he got to work on that coverage. They also brought back Jimmy Graham. I thought he was retired or a goddamn coach, but nah, he's still playing. Mm-hmm. So now the thing is, almost forgot to mention, is Alvin Kamara. He's going to be suspended the first 3 games. So they brought in Jamal Williams, and they also drafted a running back in the 3rd round, Kendre Miller. But we'll see if the impact of Alvin Kamara, how much they're going to miss him in those first 3 games. But I think Derek Carr is going to have some weapons to work with. They had the guy, Chris Olave, who had a great season last year. And Michael Thomas, I think he's healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy, because when he was healthy, he was one of the top receivers in the game. I almost had him as the best receiver in the game, in my opinion, when he had Drew Brees throwing to him. So I really think New Orleans is going to win the division. And then we got Carolina. They had the number 1 overall pick. They drafted Bryce Young. Frank Reich, he's a new head coach. Jim Caldwell, remember Jim Caldwell? He's on the staff too. Yeah, wow. And my boy D'Angelo Hall, he's an assistant cornerbacks coach. Like I said earlier, DJ Moore is gone. So we're going to see how they do without him in the wide receiver course. They drafted a wide receiver named Jonathan Mingo in the 2nd round. And like I said earlier, Adam Thielen, he also got signed. And they signed tight end Hayden Hurst. I think he might be a sneaky good addition for him. They always say that the tight end is one of the quarterback's best friends. So hopefully Hayden Hurst and this guy Bryce Young, who I think did in the preseason game I saw him, I think he looked really sharp. It was only for 3 series, but he looked ready to play, in my opinion. So overall, I'm gonna say New Orleans, Falcons, Carolina, and then Tampa Bay. But this division, I think it's probably going to be one of the worst ones, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As far as overall. But what you think about NFC South? How you got it?
Yeah, I'm pretty close to that. New Orleans, Carolina, surprisingly at 2. I got Atlanta at 3 and the Bucks at 4. Again, I agree with you. The Bucks will probably be one of the worst teams in the league. But then again, you and I both said that Seattle was going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and we thought that Drew Lock and Geno were just horrible replacements for Russell Wilson, and look at them. They made the playoffs. So let me start back at the top. The Saints should win this division. I'm not going to talk much about them for real. Hopefully Derek Carr, he doesn't have as many interceptions as last year, but they're talented across the board. I mean, a top 10 defense. I like them as NFC South champions overall. Carolina, they're my surprise team in the NFC this year. If and I mean if Bryce Young, he can just manage games, in my opinion, I think they have a really good shot. Let me give you some names to go along with my thoughts. You mentioned a few of them: Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard. He was there last year. Adam Thielen, again, he just joined the team to go along with Hayden Hurst. Brian Burns is a Pro Bowl linebacker and one of the best in the league. Okay, J.C. Horn is making a name for himself, and Von Bell added from the Cincinnati Bengals. I know a thing or two about him, and then two other guys, D'Angelo Hall and Josh McCown. Yes, everyone. I said two coaches because D Hall was one of the best when he played in the league, and I think he'll help that secondary even more, especially again a young J.C. Horn who really played quite well again last year. And McCown, he wasn't the best quarterback in the league when he played. Obviously, we all know that, but he played for a lot of teams and he's seen a lot. So that should help the young quarterback there with Bryce Young. And then I've got the Falcons at third in the division. I believe Arthur Smith and Desmond Ritter, they could be out the door if they don't do well. Yes, it might seem crazy, but you know, those quarterbacks that are drafted in the middle of the draft, pretty much, when she was a third rounder, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, they have a lot more pressure on them, and they don't generally. I guess you could say the timeline is a lot less for their, you know, I guess you could say for them to make mistakes and for them to develop and all that kind of stuff. Loads of talent at the skill position, like you mentioned, Bijan Robinson, the rookie, your boy Kyle Pitts. Again, hopefully he gets thrown the ball because I know you had a lot of issues.
He got thrown the ball as Mariota would throw the shit in the stands. He'd be wide open.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And then Drake London, like you mentioned on the outside, I do have to see a lot more from Desmond Ritter before I believe in the Falcons. Defensively, they added a lot of new faces in the offseason. You mentioned some Calais Campbell, Bud Dupree, Jesse Bates, and Jeff Okudah. I know they said I didn't see very many Lions games, but I saw the highlights. They said Jeff Okudah struggled big time last year, and I think that's part of the reason why he's no longer there. But we'll have to see how they. What's that?
Yeah, he was their first round pick a few years ago too.
Number 5 overall, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's crazy. But we'll have to see how they all gel. But they definitely had themselves a kicker, Young Hoku. Okay,
my guy.
Yeah, he's one of the best for sure. Give me the Bucks at number 4, without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
We've seen Tom Brady now leave 2 teams in his career. Look at New England; they're still struggling. And I expect the same for Tampa Bay, everyone. Your quarterback options, like you mentioned, Bake or Kyle Trask, okay? I think we texted a while back and you said if Mike Evans gets 1,000 yards this season with those quarterbacks throwing the ball, he deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer on top of his already stellar resume, everyone.
A statue in the stadium, too. They're going to have to construct a statue for his ass outside the stadium. Dealing with that trash.
But I agree, and I'm going to take it a step further. I think he should get a Lifetime Achievement Award or whatever it is on BET Awards. Okay, for real. I mean, Bake, he has his flashes, but we haven't seen anything from Kyle Trask. So yeah, he should definitely be awarded quite well if he does. Him and what's the number 2? Chris Godwin, for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not sleeping on their defense, though, especially with my boy Vita Vea over there, one of my favorite defensive tackles in the league. And they still have linebackers, White and of course, I can't remember. Thank you. And a pretty solid secondary as well. Honestly, I do feel bad for Todd Bowles, though, because it seems like whenever he gets a coaching gig, the quarterback situation is never good. So I think he could also be on the hot seat going into this year. So to recap again, I've got New Orleans, Carolina, a sneaky number 2 pick there in the division, the Falcons, and the Bucks.
Gotcha. Let's move over to the NFC West. You know, a couple years ago, this is probably the best division in football, but injuries have derailed a lot of teams in this division. But I think San Fran, I'm predicting them to be back on top, followed by the Seahawks and then Rams and Arizona. But I'm going to start with the Seahawks first. I think they're trying to rebuild the Legion of Boom again. They had 2 first-round picks. Their number 5 pick was a cornerback, Devin Witherspoon. So he's going to be joining Tariq Woolen, who had a really great year last year. I think he might have led the league in interceptions as a rookie.
Yep.
And they drafted a wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba. So on the offensive side of the ball, they got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. He's always a steady force. And we'll see what this guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is going to do. My only concern with the Seahawks, why I don't think they'll win the division, I saw what Geno Smith did last year. I was happy for him. I think he got comeback player of the year or most improved, one of those. But I don't know. We'll see if he can do it again. I'm not too sure. We'll see. I don't think he can play. I think he can play as good, but I don't know if he'll have a little step back or not. I think he can play as good, but I don't know if he can improve on that. I think if anything, he'll just stay the way he was, which has got him to the playoffs. They got Kenneth Walker, the rookie last year. I think he missed a little bit of the end of the season. I think he had an ankle injury, so hopefully he can come back strong. And we'll see how the Seahawks do. I think I said I had them second. Then I'm going to move over to the Rams. They didn't have any first-round picks in the draft this year, but Matthew Stafford is back. I honestly think if they had him, they would have did way better. They picked up your boy, Demarcus Robinson from the Ravens, and they also re-signed their cornerback, John Johnson III. They drafted him. They let him go last year, then they just re-signed him. Cam Akers is the running back. They got Cooper Kupp. I think he's a little banged up right now, just dealing with like a hamstring or something, but hopefully he'll be good by the time the season starts. So, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp is dynamite, man. That connection between those two is probably the best in the league, in my opinion, as long as those two are healthy. Hopefully Demarcus Robinson and Tutu Atwell, he's a younger guy. He's a little thin as well, but they're calling him a speedster. So we'll see if DeMarcus and crew can give some targets to Matthew Stafford going forward. Then I want to go to the Arizona Cardinals. Kyle Kingsbury, Cliffsbury, whatever the hell his name was, no offense. He's out. Jonathan Gannon is the new head coach. D-Hop is gone, so Marquise Brown is going to be the number 1 receiver. He's okay. He's pretty good. He's decent. Yeah. But I think that wide receiver room is going to be a little thin. They got another guy, I can't think of his name right now, that I like. He kind of stepped up late in the season for them. Or actually, when D-Hop was dealing with his issues with the suspension and stuff, he kind of made a name for himself. What the hell is that guy name? Give me 1 second.
I can look it up
real quick. Greg Dortch. That's what I'm thinking of. And they also they drafted a tackle in the first round, a guy named Paris Johnson Jr. So whenever Kyler Murray gets back, I honestly just think this is going to be a lost season for them. Kyler Murray, he blew his knee out late last season, so he probably won't be back until like middle of the season this year, I'm thinking, is my guess. So I think this is like a rebuild year for them. They did re-sign Kyler Murray to a max contract last year, so I don't think they'll try to move on from him, but we'll see. Maybe they'll try to tank and get a quarterback for next year's draft, but I don't know how that's going to work out. But I think they're going to finish last in the division. And then San Fran, Brock Purdy came in, looked like Joe Montana, Steve Young, last Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the damn draft. Steve Wilkes is a new defensive coordinator. DeMeco Ryans is new head coach down in Houston. They didn't have any first or second round picks, but they got Debo, my guy, Big Debo. Brandon Ayuk, every season he seems to be improved. And George Kittle, top 3 tight end in the league. Christian McCaffrey, that run game. Kyle Shanahan, he loves to run the ball. I do have some concerns with the defense now. No offense to Steve Wilkes, but Nick Bosa, he's currently holding out. I don't know how much that's going to impact him whenever they do sign him, but he's holding out right now. He hasn't been in training camp, so it might take him a few games whenever they do re-sign him. If they sign him, hopefully they sign him before the regular season start, but who knows how long the holdout does. But when he does come back, it might take him a while to get into top gear, top game shape. So, but, Brock Purdy, that offense, Christian McCaffrey, I think Kyle Shanahan is going to coach them up and they'll still be able to win a division. And then They're gonna have to make a decision with Trey Lance and Sam Darnold. I think it seems like Sam Darnold's gonna beat out Trey Lance for the backup job, but we'll see if they'll keep Trey Lance or not. I I'd be kind of shocked if they release him. I think they'll keep him as a third quarterback just because you know how they ended last year when
Yeah.
all the quarterbacks got hurt. So I got San Fran, then I got the Seahawks, then I got the Rams, then I got Arizona. How you see this division?
I have it the
Over.
exact same way, and that's how it finished last year as well. Um, I feel like the only way the 49ers will not win this division is if all their quarterbacks stink it up. You mentioned the fact of Brock Purdy and the play that we saw from him. They could have gone to the NFC Championship if all those guys were healthy. You know, they had a
Mm-hmm.
very long NFC Championship game. I mean, they could have gone to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I said that correct, but either
Yeah.
way, probably the best roster on paper. And honestly, like I said earlier, you could probably say the best roster on the field based on last year. I did forget the fact that Nick Bosa is not in camp. That's very concerning because I'm concerned for Chiefs fans on their defense because Chris Jones hadn't reported either, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're in the
Yeah, he's
same
holding
boat.
out.
Yeah, they need to get both those guys in camp for sure. Seattle, a team we both thought it would finish at the bottom of the league last year, like I mentioned, fucked around and made the playoffs. Okay. I like the young draft pick again in JSN to go along with those Pro Bowl wide receivers out there. The O line is solid. Defensively, they have notable names out there, and Bobby Wagner is back in the saddle as well. I just feel like the Niners are just a step ahead of them. But I sure do love those running backs. You mentioned Kenneth Walker the third to go along with Zach Charbonnet as well. Two good guys there. I think Charbonnet is banged up right now, if I'm not mistaken. The Rams, though, they could surprise some people this year, or they could be horrendously bad, like last year. Got to respect Matt Stafford. You mentioned him, and I love to pick up Demarcus Robinson. He's a guy that I wanted to see on the field more for us last year, and it was like when he was catching passes, we were playing pretty good. So I know he's going to be even better with a guy like Matt Stafford out there and a play caller out there with McVay. And to pair opposite of Mr. Triple Crown of 2021, Cooper Kupp, they should do some good things out there. We all know about Aaron Donald, but looking at that roster on defense, he might have to be like LeBron James those years in Cleveland and do it all his damn self. Because I mean, you got rid of Jalen Ramsey, you got a bunch of young guys pretty much out there on defense. There are a few other names, but yeah, hopefully Aaron Donald. I know he missed some time last year. Hopefully he can get back to his self because he's probably the best defensive player that we've seen in a while when he's out there for sure. Arizona, everyone, this is a team that a few years ago went from last place in their division to first, but I don't think it's going to go that way this coming year with them. They have some talented guys out there, but it's hard to win consistently without their quarterback. But going back to a few years ago, they were a team that did it without Kyler Murray. You know, they was winning a couple games with Colt McCoy as the backup there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, defensively, Buda Baker and Zaven Collins, they might be in the same position that I just mentioned about Aaron Donald in Southern California. Literally probably going to have to do it themselves out there. They did lose J.J. Watt to retirement. So sorry, Cardinals fans. I think you're
Good
in
for
for a
him.
long year. Yeah, J.J. Watt. Yeah, good for him. I think they're in for a long year. So yeah, I believe the NFC West will end the same way as it did last year. And as you agree, 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all 4 divisions. So
Which division? Let me ask you, which
go
division
ahead.
out of these 4, which one do you think is the best? Or would be the
Oh
best?
man. NFC East, honestly. I mean, don't get me wrong. San Fran and Seattle are good, but the other 2 teams are not so good.
Right. Top heavy.
Again, that NFC East, man. Looking at last year, Philly was 14-3, Dallas was 12-5, the Giants 9-7, and Commanders were 8-8.
Yeah.
I think the NFC East is the best division in the National Football Conference. What about you?
Yeah, I'm agree. I think NFC East and then probably NFC North or NFC West is a toss up for the second best, but definitely I think NFC
Yeah,
East will
North
be
is
a
looking good too.
war. Yeah, for sure.
Gotcha. All right, so is that it on the NFC for today? Uh, it's gonna do it for this episode of the B&E Podcast presented by Premium. Next week we'll break down the entire American Football Conference. It is less than 20 days until the Lions and Chiefs kick off the regular season there in Arrowhead. Everyone, he's Ed, I'm Brandon, and we're out.